I just want to be more consistent. Why why is that a problem? Why is that not a good thing to say? Or is it okay to say?
I mean, it's okay to say, but the reality of it is you're probably not going to be. And I think the big thing here is what is consistency in golf? I think that's the question we've got to ask ourselves. I think a lot of players that say that they want to be more consistent, I think what they actually mean is I just want to hit less bad shots.
Sure. Yeah.
That's it,
Yeah.
right? I think we all know, and for those who don't know, the best players in the world have an average of about 20 shots difference in their scores year to year. So I mean, Jake Knapp's just shot 59,
Hmm.
right? Well, based on that, he's probably going to have a 75 or a 77 somewhere in the year. Yet he's had a 59. So
Hmm.
you cannot tell me that Jake Knapp should just hang around 59, 61, 60. Like that would be consistent, right? But we play a game of golf, or we play a game that is just not consistent whatsoever. The weather is different every day. The greens are somewhat different every day. The lies you get are different every day. The club yardages you have every day are going to be different. So how can you be consistent, especially when I woke up this morning. I'm a bit sore, and some days I feel great, some days I feel old.
Hmm.
So how can I expect to be consistent when my body's inconsistent day by day as well? So
Sure.
I think just going back to that first line, I think when people say I want to be more consistent, I just think what they mean is I just want to hit less bad shots.
Mm. So, is there, I guess then the purpose of practice and swing instruction and all that, that's not to be more consistent. It's not to bring the range of good and bad tighter. It's to hit less bad shots. Like, is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, but it's also to move your bell curve.
Yeah.
Right? So for players who don't know what a bell curve is let's use Jake Knapp as an example. He's just shot 59. While we're recording this podcast, he would be on the like that bell curve would be his best score of the year. Now he's going to shoot a couple of 63s, 64, 65, but his average score for the year, his medium score would be anywhere between maybe like a 68 and a 72. And that's where most of his scores will fall. And then he'll obviously have the other end of the spectrum where he's going to shoot 75 or 76. Now, if we take it for an amateur golfer who maybe plays to a 10 handicap, well, they're not going to have a 59 in them. Maybe, you know, but maybe on a par three course, I don't know.
Mhm.
But that score might be, let's say, a 10 handicap. Maybe they go out and they shoot the lights out and they shoot square, right? 72. That's their equivalent of Jake Knapp's 59. So all of a sudden, if they've got 72, they've also probably got a 90 in them as well, right? But most of their scores are going to sit around that 82, 83, 84 mark. So what we're looking to do, I think consistency is, hey, let's go and try and be a 5 handicap, which now means that our best score of the year could be a 68, not a 72. So we're just moving the goalposts there. We're just making our bad rounds a little bit better and our good rounds a little bit better. And then ultimately the average score we shoot, instead of it being 82, it's 78.
Mhm.
That's all we're trying to do. But you will never get away from having that 15 to 20 shot differential from best to worst. I don't see it happening. Not when the best players of the world are showing us that it still happens to them.
So, what does that do to when we actually go play golf? If we have that knowledge in mind, what does it change us in some way, like mentally when we're playing? We know that is possible. So, how do you think that helps a golfer as they're in action?
Well, I think it helps them by, and I've said this a lot of times when I post on social media, is, I think it helps with not caring too much about what you shoot for the day, because in the back of your mind, you can shoot whatever today. You could shoot your best round, you could shoot your worst round. Um, so going to a golf course and I guess, playing a game of golf and expecting to shoot a certain score is probably not the best way of going about it. I think basically just being accepting of everything that happens when you do go and play golf, and your score at the end of it is the score. Now, it could be your best round of the year, it could be your worst round of the year, it could be your just a basic average round of the year. But given the fact that that bell curve is always going to be in play, I think takes the pressure of pressure off golfers to say, hey, today could be great and it might not be. And I'm okay with both because it will happen eventually.
Acceptance of everything that happens. Are you okay at that? How do you do at that?
I am now. I
Okay.
am now. When I was a trainee, just kind of like, or even as a kid growing up, I was an angry little golfer, right? I had to play good. Like when I was growing up playing, my days were dictated based on how I played. So if I had a great game of golf in the morning, I'd be happy for the rest of the day.
Right.
Everything would go well. If I didn't play well, my world was ending, right? Um, but as time went on and I started to coach as a living, right? That's what I do for a living. I don't rely on playing good golf to keep a roof over my head. I honestly, and I know this might sound bad, and don't treat this as if I don't want to play well because I do. But I honestly don't care what happens out there when I go play golf. And the funny thing is, by me not caring as much now, I play way better, right? Whereas when I did care, I mean, how much pressure is that on every single golf shot you're playing, right? You've got a 6 foot putt for par, and you're over that. I must make this to save my par, and if I don't, I'm going to be 3 over through three, and man, this is going to be a bad day, and I've got a couple of hard holes coming up, so that's probably going to be more bogeys, and it doesn't matter. Just treat the same 6 footer as whether it's your putt for birdie to shoot your best round or a putt for par to shoot a shocking round. It doesn't matter. So yeah, I'm very accepting now when I go and play. I don't play I don't play to shoot good scores. I've got a different reason of playing now. I play to somewhat get away from my daily job of coaching. Um, I play to go and have a nice coffee beforehand. I play to go and have lunch afterwards with my mates. That's why I play. And I honestly couldn't. I mean, yes, I care about the score. Is it more fun to play good golf? Of course. Is it, like, but at the end of the day, 10 minutes after my round, all right, let's go get some lunch. Who cares? Right?
Are you still trying to get better at golf?
Yes, I am. I definitely don't practice and play anywhere near the amount that I need to, though.
To improve?
So, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm trying to coach my students. I'm trying to get them better, and I put them as a priority over my own game. I probably need something to look forward to, like a golf trip, or putting together, say, a golf trip with students would be great because then I'd be like, well, I don't want to go there as their coach and chop it around, right? And I
Yeah.
still think it's really important as a golf coach, as our job, to still be able to perform shots that you're asking your students to perform. If I'm trying to teach someone to hit a flop shot over a bunker, I don't want to be sitting there flumming it into the bunker and saying, well, hold on, let me try that again. I want to be able to perform the shot because, if I'm teaching someone how to do it, I should be able to do it myself. So there is definitely a fine line with us coaches of obviously committing to our students and finding enough time to work on our own game. Sometimes that does get in the way especially with everything else that we're trying to do as a coach to grow, our businesses and to get our players better.
Yeah. So you mentioned kind of a pressure situation of, students are right there and you need to hit a flop shot for them. And I imagine that would be a little bit of pressure. Do you ever experience pressure? Are you ever in pressure situations while you play, or is that not your it sounds like that's not your purpose for playing, but do you ever experience that now?
Yeah, I mean, I play my tour pro for lunch.
Okay.
every time we go out and play.
Okay.
Not that that's a lot of pressure,
Sure.
but yeah, definitely. There are certain shots that I don't like on a golf course. And again, that's not the pressure of Sunday at Augusta, for example, but it's our own internal pressure of, this is an uncomfortable tee shot. Maybe you have a good round going, right? I mean, naturally, we're going to have some pressure on us if we've got a good round going, and we come to the 16th and it's a, water short of the hole, and man, if I just get this on the green, I've got an easy run in and I could shoot my best score. There's definitely pressure throughout the round for sure in different ways, but it's fun. It's fun pressure. It's not enough pressure to go. If I don't do this, I'm just a complete and utter failure. Um, but yeah, you've got to embrace it and don't be afraid to stuff up. I mean, if I bladed a flop shot in front of my students, I'd laugh, and they would probably laugh too. And I think a little bit of pressure would actually be off because they would, you know, it would help them kind of come back down towards where I am, and it's like, look, I hit the same shots you guys hit from time to time. Maybe not as often, but I definitely hit them. I leave them in my content as well. I actually quite enjoy
Really?
leaving them in because
I haven't
it,
noticed
it,
that.
it resonates with a lot of people. Whereas a lot of coaches will edit out their bad shot. I'll leave them in. I'll hit it fat or to the right, and I'll just, sorry guys, and just redo it.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. Um, yeah, it just goes to show, because if I can shoot an under par round or an even par round, hitting bad shots, it also helps show everyone that you don't have to play perfect golf in order to achieve your best rounds.
Do you encounter a lot of players? Because I know your coaching system isn't always a direct conversation with the player, but when you do have conversations with players, which I know you do you ever get into a player describing how they always struggle under pressure, or my swing always does this in this situation and it seems mental related? Do you ever encounter that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, my students can all message me. They can voice note me. Certain students who are on like my premium package, for example, we Zoom call once a month. So yeah, we can definitely talk about that stuff. And the conversation is always, is it mental? Is it physical? Definitely think it's both. Definitely think the mental can affect the physical, and also the physical then can affect the mental as well, right? So yeah, there's definitely conversations that I have with students about that for sure.
So how does mental affect physical and physical affect mental? Give me more on that.
Yeah, so let's take someone with the yips, chipping, for example, right? Um, I think if they've got a physical issue, i.e., their technique's not very good for the shot, eventually they're going to hit so many bad shots that they get afraid over that golf shot, right? Their ball's sitting tight, front flag, they've got to go over a bunker. And if they haven't seen good shots over and over and over again, well, they're not really going to be that confident standing over that golf ball. And, you know, I feel with shots that I struggle with, if someone said to me, just be more confident over it. It's like, look, I get that. I get that. But I've also seen that ball sail out to the right enough times to know that there is something in my technique that is producing that shot. Um, Maybe I fix up my technique and see the ball move in the other direction, and that gives me a little bit more confidence to stand on that tee shot or that chip shot to go, hey, I've for the last 4 weeks I haven't duffed a chip shot because I changed my technique. I did this and that. Now all of a sudden I've got confidence, and I'm not standing over there, standing over that chip shot, going, man, I've just duffed my last 14 chip shots. Like, this isn't going to be any better, right? Um, and I think the mental can affect the physical, because ultimately, if you're if you're thinking of popping it in the bunker as well, that can also kind of bring that into fruition. So I definitely, when I'm standing on tee shots where there's trouble on the right, I've got to be very mindful that my last look isn't at at that water. I always, whenever I'm faced with a tee shot that's difficult, I try and have my last look is where I want the ball to go. I'm trying to tell myself, right, you want it to go here, you want it to go here. You don't want to glance over at that water and be like, oh, what if it just goes that way? Like, I don't want to try and do that. So, yeah, I think they both can affect each other for sure.
I want to take a brief moment to talk about the sponsor for this episode, the Divot Board. So, what is the Divot Board? The Divot Board is, at its most basic level, a training aid. But more specifically, it is a rectangular hitting mat that will show you the exact divot that you make when you make contact with the golf ball. So, it has this little yellow circle right in the middle. You put your golf ball on that, you make a swing, and it will show you instantaneously with awesome feedback without tearing up actual turf, hitting turf in your backyard, or tearing up even turf on the range. It will show you your divot. And the instantaneous feedback, I think, is the most important feature of the Divot Board. We know on the Mental Golf Show the power of instant feedback. Just on a brain neurological level, our brain needs to experience errors in order to adapt and make changes. So if we make an error but don't get the feedback quickly, then we can't make the adaptation quickly. But the Divot Board, as uncomfortable as it might be, shows you your error that you made on that swing instantaneously. And I personally think it's more accurate of feedback than even hitting off grass, because you can see exactly where your ball was with that yellow circle. You can see exactly where your divot started relative to that circle. And you can see the path of the club, of whether it was out to in to out. And you can even kind of get a vibe of whether the face was closed or open. And, probably the most useful of all the features is you can tell, did I hit it thin or did I hit it heavy? Is the divot really kind of small, meaning I just barely skimmed the surface? Or is it a big divot and started behind the ball, meaning I hit it heavy? I was too steep. So the Divot Board is an awesome training aid. I only have like 2 training aids. I have one for putting and then I have the Divot Board. So when I say I like the Divot Board, those words carry a lot of weight. So how can you get the Divot Board? You can go to divotboard.com/mentalgolfshow and then use the discount code mentalgolf10 at checkout, and you'll get 10% off of your entire order. They have lots of products, not just the hitting mat. They have an entire integrated hitting platform that has a slot that you can put your Divot Board into. So you could get 10% off of any of the products in their store, which, I mean, I think that's an awesome discount. And so many people have taken advantage of this discount code. So go get your Divot Board, go order something from their site, go to divotboard.com/mentalgolfshow and use the discount code mentalgolf10 at checkout to get 10% off. Thank you, Divot Board, for being a sponsor of the Mental Golf Show. You kind of mentioned, things going sideways during a round. How much should we be thinking about our swings, thinking about our technique while we play?
I think this is different for everyone. I think some players overthink their golf swing on the golf course, which we could then kind of, bring back to what's their process. Have they got their swing to a point where it doesn't require a lot of thinking? You can think of, I mean, man, we could go down a rabbit hole of this one, but like I personally, when I play, I think of technique almost every shot. And I have done ever since I played golf. Now, it might not be a lead wrist flexion or a trail elbow, this and that. It might be a feel of, I'm going to feel like I pull cut this ball. And that moves my body in a way that actually produces a better shot for me. Because with my golf swing, I get my arms a little bit too flat, and then I kind of push my lower body forward and tilt my upper body back. So just from a coaching perspective, that drops the club to the inside and sends my path out to the right. And I either have to flip my hands to close it up, or I leave the face open and it goes to the right. So for me, if I'm standing on a tee shot that's quite difficult, I will think or feel, right? Think and feel of hitting a pull cut, which gets me at the top. I feel like I just kind of smother this golf ball, so I try and start the ball left and hit a cut. Now, I know based on my own game and doing this time and time again that typically doesn't produce a pull cut, and it typically produces a lot more of a straighter shot. So when I don't think of that, I go back to my natural tendency, which is to side bend and get the club a little stuck underneath. So for me, I'm always thinking of that feel. I'm not necessarily thinking of, say, like, internal thoughts, which is, trail, elbow, lead, wrist, all that kind of stuff. I'm thinking more external, i.e. I want to try and hit this flight, or at least feel like I'm hitting that flight, which then offsets my natural tendency. Now, obviously this is a professional golfer talking here, whereas a 17 handicapper or an 18 handicapper, they may have many other flaws in their swing that, and I hear this a lot, you shouldn't think on the golf course. That's what I hear a lot. And I disagree with that wholeheartedly because, I wish I remember the podcast it was when I was younger, but Kari Webb was on this podcast and said there was one tournament in her whole entire career where she didn't have a swing thought. One tournament, right? So every other tournament she played with a swing thought. And you watch golf on TV with all these golfers as well who are behind the ball and they're thinking, you can see them drilling stuff. Sure, we don't know what they're saying when they're over the ball, of course, but I can't imagine that they're just thinking of nothing. That they would be thinking of something. And at the end of the day, if my natural swing, when I don't think of anything, hits the ball to the right and I get the club stuck underneath me, well, wouldn't it make sense for me to think of a movement that doesn't force that to happen? Now, again, this is where I think, obviously for me as a good player, it's a lot easier for me to just go, you know what, think pull cut and I hit a decent shot. Whereas the golfer who's got a lot of issues in their swing, they roll it inside, they've got a weak grip, they come over the top, they're steep, they stand up. Well, I mean, you're probably going to have a little bit more than me to think about in order to make your swing work. But this is also part of the reason why they hit bad shots, is because their swings are, let's say they've got 10 things wrong in their golf swing and I've got 3 things wrong. Well, I'm probably going to hit better golf shots just purely because I don't have as many things wrong in my swing. So that's where you, in my opinion, don't hide behind the fact that you've just got to say to yourself, you've got to be more confident. You have some technique issues that are affecting that ball. I think improve some of those first, and then you'll get confidence from hitting better shots. Then you can start to think less, or not necessarily think less, but think of the right things as opposed to the 15 different things you're trying to work on in your swing.
Yeah. Simplifying thoughts, not trying to think none, because the only person that can think none is someone who's not alive, right? Someone whose brain isn't working. So our brains are designed to think. So trying to shut that purpose off is going against the way our brains are designed. So simplifying the thoughts. But then on the reverse side, we're saying internal more technical type of thinking. That's not super helpful. But why do you think that's not helpful? Why do you think that is so troublesome for golfers? Like, why does it cause problems for most? Why do you think?
Well, I think studies have shown that external thoughts are more appropriate than internal thoughts. Definitely when you're on the golf course. But to be honest, mate, I've been someone who's thought internally quite a lot. And this is why I say, I think it's a great topic to discuss because each golfer is different. I work with a lot of engineers, and to try and get them to not think is so difficult, right? Because that's the way they're wired. And it's no different to me being a coach where I'm very much that as well. Like my mind's always ticking over. It's just how my mind works. My mind is never quiet. I've always got 15 things to think about on the go. So when I go and play golf, naturally for me, it's sometimes easier to go, I need to feel my arms way higher. Then I need to feel like my chest is covering the ball more, as opposed to just hit a fade. I can make both work. I'm not saying everyone can make both work, but come back to that 18 handicapper. It's probably better to give them one or two external thoughts to try and, again, if they've got 10 things wrong with their swing, we want the thought that they have prior to hitting the golf ball to be one of those thoughts to just ideally simplify that movement they're trying to make as much as possible, because that's the type of golfer when they start to think internally, what are they? I mean, I've got to get into my setup position. My grip's got to be stronger. I've got to get my trail elbow more in. That that lead wrist needs to be a little bit more bowed coming. That's all the stuff that's going to harm a golfer. That stuff is what you should be doing on the driving range or into a net in the off season, right? When you've got time to not necessarily care where the ball goes, but on the golf course, it needs to be something just around keeping the ball in play for a lot of players. So if there's out of bounds on the right, how about we aim more left, and I don't know, maybe we feel like we hit a draw. If you slice the ball a lot, let's try and hit a draw, right? And if you hook it, that's fine. But your normal movement's going to slice the ball. So we need to offset that slice with a thought of hooking it or drawing it.
Right, like your pull fade, pull cut feeling.
Yeah, I'm just trying to offset my ball flight that goes right when I least want it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it, what do you think about the defining the purpose of practice as turning technical thoughts into feelings that you can use on the course? What do you think about, does that sound like a decent definition of practice?
Yeah, I think that's definitely pretty good for changing movements. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. You don't always have to be staring at that golf ball thinking of lead wrist. If you can turn it into a much more simple feel for yourself, have the toe of the golf club beat the heel to the ball. Pretty simple thought. Now, there's many ways of doing that, right? There's lead wrist flexion, there's forearm rotation, strengthening the grip. But the only thought was, let's just get the toe to beat the heel. Now, for some players, that will work really well. For me, personally, I would love to know, what do I have to do in order to do that? And that's where the conversation starts to go, well, there's many ways. You could do this. Let's try that. Didn't work very well. Okay, what about this? That worked a little bit better. Oh, that one worked really well. So, there's not one drill that you need to do. There's many different drills to do to achieve the same thing, and that's where you've got to find the one that you can perform the best, and one that you can perform on the golf course as well, because ultimately that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. What is good practice? Like, if you were to let's start with the negative. What is bad practice? What do you see when players are, I practice this way, and that's clearly not a good way to practice? What do you think there?
It depends what they're working on and what they're trying to achieve. First things first. But I would say, just as a whole, bad practice would be, say you've got 100 golf balls in front of you, and those 100 golf balls took you 20 minutes.
Yep.
That's probably not great.
Rapid fire.
Yeah, I don't really know what they're trying to achieve by doing that. And in those 100 golf balls, they probably didn't do any practice swings. They probably didn't step away and provide themselves with a bit of feedback, whether it's through video, ball flight, if they're on grass, where's my divot starting, what was my target. That probably didn't do any of that. So I would say that that's probably not the greatest way to practice. That's what I would start with.
Yeah. So if it's purposeless, right? That's a pretty good blanket statement to say, if your practice is purposeless, it's not gonna be good practice.
Yeah, and I think even it's a hard one too, because like I could throw 20 golf balls around a chipping green and not really take any practice swings, or not really look like I'm that kind of into it. But mentally, if like in my mind internally, I could be figuring out, what's going to happen out of that lie to that flag. okay, cool, let me play this shot. And it can happen very quickly. And people might look at me and go, he's doing no practice swings, he's doing nothing. But internally, I'm actually going through these like little, trying to figure all this out very quickly in my mind. So I think more so on the chipping green and putting green, that can be good. But on the range, I very rarely see, I mean, it's how most golfers practice, right? And if we ask most golfers, they're really not improving that much. So there's got
Yeah.
to be some kind of correlation between how most golfers practice and how most golfers don't get better.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible for a golfer to, how can I ask this? Is it possible for a golfer to get better by themselves without a coach?
Of course,
Okay.
of course. Yeah, I mean, people have done it.
Okay.
Golfers around the world have done it, are doing it. I didn't get much coaching growing up. Yeah, golf was always my second sport. So, yeah, I played a lot. I had a grandfather that played. He helped me to the best of his ability. Um, I figured out a lot of stuff, but just by playing and hitting a lot of balls when I was younger, I definitely improved on my own just by doing. Um, as an adult, look, I'm obviously as a coach going to say that coaching is going to get you better faster, in my opinion, right? That's not to say you can't improve on your own. It may just take you a lot more trial and error than if you just hired a coach for a month, for example, or a couple of lessons, and that coach went, hey, these are the two areas you should focus on. Here are the drills. Commit to that. Well, you've probably just saved yourself 6 months of, I don't know the exact time, but maybe 6 months of kind of like that trial and error, the frustration. The amount of players that I work with and who have come and seen me for coaching, it's so common that they'll see me and they'll tell me what's wrong with their swing, right? And normally they're pretty correct, right? They see some early extension, they see some lead wrist extension at the top, they see the club getting across, they see it's steep. But the problem is most golfers don't know how to fix it, and that's why they've come to see me. Is that I hear a lot of golfers say, hey Ryan, I've followed you for the last year. I'm really frustrated with my golf. I used to be off 5, I'm now off 10, and I have no idea how to improve. That's literally a message I receive daily. And, you know, I think that's purely because they've watched a lot of stuff online, which is all good information. All the stuff online is great for a certain someone and for someone who needs it. But a lot of golfers, they'll watch something and say, I'll try that. It's like, why are you trying it? It's not going to get you any better because you actually need X, Y, Z, and you're looking at something completely different. So is that movement relevant for someone? Yes. Is it relevant for you? No. And that's why you don't improve. So yes, golfers can get better on their own. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But hiring a coach and getting some kind of help, correct help, is going to fast track that improvement for sure.
How do you know what golf content is relevant for you? How can you filter that out? Because you're part of it. I guess I'm part of it, not in the swing way, but uh, you're putting out content that is to 50,000 people, and every single one of those 50,000 people can see the same thing and interpret it. And I'm assuming not all 50,000 of those people this isn't relevant for, right? So how can the viewer decipher what's relevant?
Well, let's start off with this, right? And this is going to be a bit of honesty here, right? As a coach, we put out content, you, me, anybody puts out content to market our business. Okay? This day and age on social media, if you're not on social media, no one knows who you are. Okay? So unfortunately / fortunately, because there's some great things that happen by being seen on social media, but I'm always on that frickin' phone. Right? Like it does frustrate me a little bit that I'm on my phone as much as I am. But you just have to be nowadays if you want to be a coach because you've got to be seen. So let's say that as a coach, we are trying to market our business, which means that we put out content for people to watch and consume. Now, in the background, that content will help half, right? And it may not necessarily be for the other half. Now, the consumer of that content needs to watch it at their own, peril and say, okay, this may make me worse and it might make me better, right? And it's up to them to then ask themselves, do I want to watch it? Now, there are some pieces of content, or a lot of content, that I think would help 99.9% of people, right? Now, some swing stuff, the swing stuff that I post is typically a piece of content from a lesson that I did for someone specific, right? Whereas some content that I'll post is like, hey, here's how to hit a high chip shot, low chip shot, and a medium flighted chip shot. I think anyone could use that and get better. On the other hand, they also may not be set up to the ball correctly to hit these shots. So when they say, I tried to hit the low one and I'm shanking it, what am I doing? Right? And it's like, well, you probably have something that I didn't mention in that video out of place. So you need to identify what that is. Now, again, it comes back to our previous conversation there of what is the thing? Now, if they have no idea, they should hire a coach to give them a lesson to identify that. Then guess what? Go and watch videos online by whatever coach you want to watch on that specific topic, right? So that's essentially, I think, how to filter out content. There is definitely going to be some generic stuff that helps everyone. There's definitely going to be some niche stuff that is just for certain individuals. And this is why golf instruction can be so difficult sometimes, because everyone holds the club slightly differently. Everyone has a different body. Everyone moves slightly differently. Everyone rotates a bit more or a bit less than someone else. So what I put out there, like I said, can help some. It might not do anything for others, and it could harm others. Obviously, we're not trying to make golfers worse, but that's why we need to be clear in our messaging. And some Twitter threads that I do, I put at the start or at the end of that Twitter thread,
Disclaimer.
I say, look, I say, look, I just spoke about where the club face should be at P2, at our takeaway, right? That is not to say that you can't play with a closed face. That's not to say you can't play with an open face. There was, Sam Snead gets the club head inside his hands at P2. You can play with an inside takeaway, but I've also taught people who rip that golf club inside, get it across the line, big flying elbow, come down steep, and can't hit the ball to save their life. And by getting their takeaway more in front of them, by setting their arms more in front, it's helped them. Now, if you did that to Matt Fitzpatrick, would he get better? Probably not. Probably not. So as a coach, that's also what we're dealing with as well is, should this player move more towards an inside takeaway or a bowed left wrist or a flat lead? That's the stuff we need to think about. And there are a lot of other little things in the golf swing that will determine if you need to do that or not. And this is where amateur golfers typically have no idea like what to do.
Right.
Right. And this is where when we're talking about can amateur golfers get better on their own? Yes, they can, but they also can't. Some people, right? As always, it depends.
Yeah. Yeah, it truly just depends on can you diagnose what's wrong. And that's what a good coach does, is diagnoses what's wrong. And from there, then you can, like you said, use content to address the thing that's wrong, or use the coach to address the thing that's wrong and then work on it diligently. But it's the diagnosis of what's wrong. So I don't know, is there a way for a player to get better at diagnosing what's wrong? Do you think?
Well, I mean, this is what I've been doing for the last 10 years as a coach, right? Is studying other coaches and looking at thousands and thousands of swings and finding out, why does Dustin Johnson's swing work? Why does Matthew Wolf's swing work? Why does this work? Why doesn't this work? And, I guess I would kind of say for golfers who are super keen, yeah, I mean, they could study under great coaches. If it's their hobby, it's their choice to do this. But, I'm never going to be as knowledgeable as a lawyer on lawyer type stuff. It's just not my job,
Yeah.
right? So even if it was a hobby, right, I still wouldn't be as good as someone who is full time in this. And
Boring hobby.
yeah, it could be a boring hobby, yeah. But like tennis, like okay, I know a little bit about tennis, but compared to a tennis coach, mate, I wouldn't argue with a tennis coach at all, no matter how much I knew about tennis, because they are the experts in the field at that. Whereas I think a lot of golfers so like there's so much content on golf that it's kind of given that recreational golfer a voice on, you know, and different coaches teach a different way as well, right? There's systems out there. There's stack and tilt. There's this system. There's this system, and I still love the post I put up about, just improving the compression on your golf ball. And I say, look, just put some weight in the lead side of put more weight in the lead side and just stay there throughout the swing. And I love the comment, oh, that's stack and tilt.
Stack
No,
and
no,
tilt.
no, no. That's not stack and tilt. That's just putting pressure in the lead side. Why are we calling it a name? Now, stack and tilt's great. I've watched a lot of that, and there are parts of stack and tilt that I teach golfers or certain golfers, but I don't see it as well, not stack and tilt itself, but putting pressure in the lead side. It's what I would do if I was hitting a ball under a tree, right? If I had to hit a low shot
course.
into the wind, I'm not stack and tilting. I'm just putting pressure in the lead side. So I probably got off on a bit of a tangent
yeah,
there,
yeah.
but yeah, a lot of golfers, they're knowledgeable on that stuff. There are a lot of golfers out there who have studied a lot, but I highly doubt you've studied as much as the top coaches in our industry. And that's where, like, dude, I bow my heads to to coaches, right? Like, I don't ever say that I know the most in the golf industry, and that would be a complete and utter lie. I know there are coaches that know more out there than me, and yeah, I'm always going to be the first one to say if I post something on social media and a coach comes at me and goes, Ryan, you are flat out wrong. Here's the evidence as to why. I'll literally post, hey guys, I posted this. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I now know better. But yeah, thankfully no one's really done that yet. So hopefully what I'm posting is good stuff. But yeah, there are a lot of recreational golfers out there that will blatantly say to me, wrong. And I'll be like, how's it wrong? Like, can you
Yeah.
prove that it's wrong? Oh, because Ben Hogan did this. Okay, cool. But Tiger did this.
Right.
So, you know, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love that. Have you, because I know you've spent a lot of time with other coaches. That's something you talk about a lot. Have you ever learned something shadowing a coach where, and we'll say recently, like in the last year or two, after you've had a ton of time under your belt, you've studied for a decade, you know the stuff in and out. Has there been something in the last year or two that you changed the way you think about part of the swing or how you teach something? Or I don't know, is there any big revelations from hanging out with a coach recently? Any come to mind?
No, I don't think so too much. I'll tell you who is, I think, changing the industry for the better, and that's Joe Mayo with his steeper chip stuff.
Mm,
That's definitely, when I was a trainee growing up, we were always taught that, steep is bad, right?
yeah.
You can't have the ball back. You can't have your chest forward because you just dig the leading edge in. And I think, you know, while I think what Joe Mayo was doing is amazing, it's kind of educating the world of golf that being steep in chipping is okay to do for certain shots, right? It's not great for all shots, but it's great for certain shots. And again, people message me and say, should you be steep or shallow with chipping? And I think any good golf coach should say, well, it depends on the shot.
Depends.
Yeah, yeah. I even had a coach message me a while ago and just purely he said that to me straight up. He said, Ryan, are you on the steep side or are you on the shallow side? And I went, you're a coach. This is a trick question. Like, are you having a go here? And he was laughing because I wasn't going to answer either way, because if I need to hit a high soft shot to a front flag, probably not going to be steep and drill it in low. Um, so, but yeah, I think as a trainee when I was younger, growing up
Yeah.
coaching, I think that's definitely been something that I've looked into a lot and gone, okay, interesting. Um, but in regards to the swing stuff, I don't think I'm, I don't think I'm that far along yet for what I was teaching 5 years ago to be irrelevant now, if that makes sense. Maybe ask me in another 20 years and I'll say, man, my first 10 years, holy, what was I teaching? Maybe I'll
Yeah.
say that, maybe I won't.
Sure.
But definitely with the short game stuff, yeah, I would say that the steeper stuff is definitely something that's made my eyes, quite open.
So if Joe Mayo is, in your words, changing the industry with steep chipping,
I
do
think he's making the industry more aware. Let's
okay,
call it that.
okay,
More aware that it's okay to be that way for certain shots.
yeah, I am for that way, or I'm that way for a lot of shots, probably more than I need to be. I've always been a really steep chipper, digging the leading edge, using a 60 degree everywhere around the green. So I actually didn't know that about Joe Mayo. I don't consume as much content as the regular average
You're
golfer.
about to go down a rabbit hole, mate. Here we go.
Yeah. So what's he talking about? Like educate me on why is that controversial? Because I've been living in my own bubble of. I mean, that sounds like a perfectly normal way to chip. So is it controversial or is it like how is it changing things?
Well, I think people assume steep as digging the leading edge into the ground,
Right.
right? Whenever we hear steep, we think, oh, he's going to smash the ground,
Yeah. You're gonna
right?
chunk it. Yeah.
Yeah, and shallow means you're just going to brush it really nicely. Well, if you can steepen your chipping, you are going to move your low point more forwards, right? Which means that you're going to play more of a ball first contact chip shot. Now, having ball first can be good on certain lies, muddy, grainy, um, you know, in the rough, right? You don't want to be too shallow in the rough because your club hits the ground way too early and all that grass kind of traps between face and ball. So, and Michael Kim, who's playing amazing golf at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
he had a lesson with Joe Mayo at the Waste Management, and what Michael comes second outright, something like that.
Did he at Waste Manager? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think so.
No
Yeah.
kidding.
So,
That's awesome.
and he attributes a lot of that to the lesson he had with Mayo to steepen him up. And also to while I'm talking about Joe Mayo, there's also Parker McLaughlin, who's a more of a wider, shallower chipper, and I've done some chats with Parker, and he's an amazing coach as well. Neither are right or wrong, right? Like again, it depends on the shot that you're trying to hit as to what is going to be more beneficial. Um, but I think going back to your question, everyone used to think, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people used to think that if I throw my ball back and if I get steep on the ball, I'm going to dig it, and that's why I'm hitting it fat. Whereas what Joe's kind of now saying is, you can be steep, but then raise your body up to keep the club out of the ground, right? If you're steep and you're going down into the golf ball, well, of course you're going to lower yourself and you're going to hit the ground too early. Now you're going to do that with a shallow movement or a steep movement. It doesn't matter which one you use. And also, the reason why his stuff is going around at the moment is because if you're shallow, or let's say you swing the club more around your body, right? There's a likelihood that you're going to move your low point back and you're going to catch the ground too early as well. Now, if you did that plus you were moving the club down, so your low point's back plus the club's diving into the ground, well, that shallow is also going to hit the ball fat. So that's why, with what Mayo's doing at the moment, he's steepening everyone up to take away that kind of, that big duff shot from the inside. So Mayo's very much about hitting that ball first low spinner And then Parker loves to hit the higher one with a bit more club on the ground first, and using the bounce as everyone calls it,
Mm-hmm.
right, and hitting a higher shot. They both work. Both guys have tour players on playing on the tour. So, but I think everyone used to be steep is bad, shallow is good, and now I think everyone's coming to terms with they're both good in depending on the lie and depending on the shot you're trying to play.
Yeah, yeah, it just depends. So if Joe Mayo is known for this, and I know he's known for more than that, and Parker's known for this, is Ryan Mouque known for anything you think?
Twitter threads. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not there in the industry yet to
Sure,
even think about that stuff.
sure.
Yes, I've been at this a decade, but I don't. Yeah, I still follow a lot of coaches, and I still learn from coaches. Do other coaches learn from me? I would hope so. But I still consider I still consider myself fairly young in this industry. I by no means think that I know more than someone who's been coaching for 15, 20, 30 years. Um, I stay out of that stuff. I don't try to assert myself as a leader anywhere. I'm just here to to learn. I'm happy to be wrong. I
Mm.
wouldn't be happy with it, but it would be
Yeah,
great
yeah,
to
yeah.
be told that that's not what you should do and things like that. But like there are guys that have commented on my stuff who I respect. Um, you know, Hank Haney has kind of come out and said, "Mate, doing a great
Oh,
job." Like
nice.
that's pretty cool.
No kidding.
The guys at Athletic Motion Golf, so who are all very 3D based and use gears. So what I'm doing must be okay. So I'm just going to keep trying to do it and keep learning from guys that I think are much better than me, and hopefully that can kind of come down into my students as well.
So why should a why should a golfer go to Ryan Mouque instead of another coach?
Oh, I hate selling myself like this.
Well, the
Look,
floor is
I mean,
yours.
look, I think I care a lot about coaching golfers because one of my pet peeves in the industry is coaches that don't care. It's coaches that um, only do it as a bit of a pastime, right? And I'm not saying that coaches should be in a pro shop or anything like that, but there are a lot of coaches who are not full time coaching. They've got other things that they've got to do. They've got pro shot. They've got to run
Yeah,
this. They've
yeah.
got to do this, and then they get that 30-minute lesson book into their diary, and they're like, oh, crap, I really don't have time for that lesson. Um, I have time for everyone. I make time for everyone. Um, I yeah, I would like to think that I care most than more than others. Um, I've helped a lot of golfers. I'm almost up to 10,000 online lessons in just under 3 years, which is crazy, and that wouldn't have happened unless people were wanting me to help them. At the end of the day, students, I'm very thankful for all the students I've been able to work with because they've allowed me to hone my craft and to get as many lessons as I've got under my belt, especially online. And don't forget, I did also 6 years of in-person coaching prior to that as well. So yeah, I've definitely been able to work with a lot of golfers. I feel like I've seen a lot of swing patterns, and I know the drills that help with those swing patterns. And as long as the golfer is prepared to do those drills and to commit to them, I can guarantee that you're going to improve. Some improve faster than others. There's no real way of knowing how fast you're going to improve. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy to help.
Yeah. Well, I've certainly
Yeah.
sent several players your way. I try to send as many players as I can your way. So if I wanted to send players to you from this podcast, where would they go? Where do you want them to go? What's top of the funnel? What do you want them to do in relation to you?
Well, the fact I'm on Twitter 24/7, you could DM me.
Yeah.
If you DM me through Twitter, I'll be on that.
Very responsive.
Yeah, very responsive. I live and breathe that app. It's crazy. But I love everyone on the app. Like the app's been been fantastic for me in my business. So I owe a lot to everyone on that app. So I'm happy to just give back as much as I can on that app. So but my website has everything. I mean, if you just type in my name on Google, my website's there. There's a website on the Twitter bio, on my Instagram bio, all my socials. So you can go and see what I've got. I've got all my digital products that can help. I've got my academy, which I'm not sure was up and running last time we had a
No,
chat. I'm not too sure.
it
I'm
was
not too
not.
sure. Maybe I was still in the creation of it, but yeah, the academy is great. It's a real lower cost option for golfers who might not want that full one-to-one coaching. It's got as many drills as I've been able to put on there. And again, this is just all through the last kind of 2.5 to 3 years of working with as many golfers as I have. I've started to learn what patterns golfers have with their bodies and the most common tendencies, and I've put that all in one area for everyone to. I mean, you can get it for as cheap as anything. It's less than $1 a day. So, there's that, and then there's obviously the one-to-one stuff, all the personalized stuff if you wanted that as well. So, it's all there. And yeah, just get in contact me however you want, email, message, anything.
And there's hundreds of drills on your academy, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way to look at it is, it, it's not just drills, it's a walkthrough. It's tutorials of everything you can think of in the game of golf. So like if someone said, Ryan, I want to learn how to hit driver, what have I got to do? It's like if
Yeah.
you jump in my academy and you go to the driver course, we have everything you need to know about setup, everything you need to know about body movements, um, all the faults and fixes of driver. Like if someone's popping that driver up, right? They sky it on the top of the driver. There's a video on why that happens and how to fix it. There's strategy and specialty shots, and I've got that literally from driver, fairway wood, irons, chipping, pitching, bunkers, putting, everything. Literally how to set up to every golf club, the most common tendencies I see. There's about 100 videos of drills, all from setup, how to get into correct setup, takeaway drills, backswing drills, downswing, impact, follow through. And then I've also got some other courses in there that are, things like grip and wrist matchups. So everyone, someone might have held a golf club the same way for 20 years and don't want to change their grip. Well, you need to understand that there are going to be certain wrist matchups you need in order to control the face. And then with that, you're going to need to move the body a certain way based on that grip and wrist. So there's like courses like that in there. There's so much in there for any golfer, and you can also get a personalized swing analysis in there as well. That is an additional cost,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it's in there available. If you watch all the videos and you go, you know what, great content, but where do I start? What do I need? There's so many videos in here, but what do I need? Well, grab an analysis and I can give you a rundown on what videos in particular you need to watch.
Okay, so that's like I'm having a hard time diagnosing myself. Ryan diagnosed me, and now I can use the academy, use the walkthroughs better.
Yes,
Oh, that's
correct.
awesome. Okay, I didn't
Yeah,
realize that was what that was. That's awesome.
yeah. Whereas I guess the biggest difference is the personalized stuff. You are, you're messaging me. I'm doing a personalized video for you, as opposed to say a video that was recorded a year ago at the magnificent Carey Cliffs, which is
Yeah,
which is
beautiful.
amazing. But yeah, all the videos that I would typically give someone are going to be in the academy, but then the personalized stuff is exactly that. It's personalized. Even with all my personalized coaching, I don't yeah I don't really send that the academy content to them, even though I could. I make sure that it's personalized for them with their name and everything. So yeah.
Mm, that's awesome. Ryan Mouque, thank you so much for your time. I always love talking to you. You kind of line me back up. You ground me back into Golf's not that complicated. That sort of vibe. So I hope listeners got that vibe from you. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Josh, appreciate you having me on again.
All right, everyone. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Mental Golf Show. And thank you to Ryan Mouque for being a guest on the Mental Golf Show another time. He has actually been on the Mental Golf Show before. It's probably been a couple years at this point. I'm not even really sure. So if you're interested in hearing more from him, you can go back and find that episode. Just search your podcast thing for the Mental Golf Show, Ryan Mouque, and both episodes will come up. And special thanks to the Divot Board for being a partner with the Mental Golf Show. Go get a Divot Board. I'm serious. It's awesome. It helps me get better at golf, even when I can't get to the golf course. I think it's an invaluable training aid. So go to divotboard.com/mentalgolfshow and use the discount code mentalgolf10 at checkout to get 10% off your entire purchase. There's lots of stuff, not just the hitting mat. There's other stuff that they have, which is it's all really good stuff. And of course, thanks to you for being a listener and a viewer. Hello, YouTube, of the Mental Golf Show. I'm Josh Nichols, and I will catch you guys next time. Play freely, everybody.